Artificiel, je voudrais que tu te ramènes plus devant, que tu sois là de temps en temps. Artificiel, je voudrais que tu te ramènes plus devant, que tu sois là de temps en temps. Et je voudrais que tu te rappelles, notre amour est éternel et bas. Oh, poop. I did that wrong. I think I did that wrong. Artificiel, je voudrais que tu te ramènes plus devant. Tu seras là de temps en temps. Okay, guys, I got songs in my head. I got stuff going on, and I think we're shared everywhere we need to be shared. Hey, how's it going? If you're just joining, say hi. Hello, I'm Amanda, singing songs and talking today, coming on with, this is going to be a quick one, quick tip about eating locally, seasonally, and culturally. As you guys know, I'm a digital nomad. I'm living in France right now. And I want to talk a little bit about this because this is something that is it's like a way of life for some people, and for others it's completely foreign, right? Eating in a way that is local, seasonal, and then I'll also talk about cultural eating. So what I'm noticing while being here is, hey, if you're just joining, hey, I'm Amanda from HeismanHealth.com, the intuitive nutrition and energy coach. Feel free to say hi. So what I'm noticing while being here is how natural it is to eat locally and seasonally, right? This is something in the States that the average person doesn't necessarily do as much. It's wonderful if we are involved in CSAs or gardens, but you know, we have like everything available to us at the grocery store, which we think of as a good thing, but if we kind of track that back and think about where it comes from, of course, not all fruits and vegetables are seasonal all the time, right? So track it back. Where is your food actually coming from? If you want a banana in the middle of winter, where do the bananas grow? Where do the pineapples grow? Where do the mangoes grow, right? So you know, I don't eat 100% locally and 100% seasonally all the time. But this is something I've noticed, you know, having grown up in a more continental climate in Ohio, you know, where there's 4 seasons, and then moving to South Florida where it's the subtropics, and now, you know, I've been all over the place, but right now, being in the Rhône-Alpes region of France, I'm noticing this a lot, right? And having completed a gardening internship when I was back in nutrition school, this is something that I think we really take for granted in the Western culture, is having all fruits and vegetables to us, like available to us all the time. When, hey Connie, how are ya? So if we think about local, like, so if we think about that word, right? So if it's grown in the general vicinity, when you are consuming that fruit or vegetable, you are not only opting out of the big food system by voting with your dollars, you're supporting local farmers, local gardeners, local growers. You're supporting that movement, as well as you are getting the energy of your local community, right? So you will feel more connected to your local community. And this is something we don't necessarily think about either, is that you can go get all, you know, if you're just joining, say hi, I'm Amanda. You can go get like all organic, all everything that you want at Whole Foods or Publix or Kroger or whatever, and bring it back, and that's great. I'm not poo-pooing that. But you also don't know necessarily, unless you take the time to look where each thing came from, whether it came from Brazil or Washington State or Apple or where it came from. You don't necessarily know how long it's been in transit, and there really is something to be said for consuming the fruit or vegetable, within a few days or a week of harvest. So if you are involved in something like a CSA, you get those vegetables the day of or the day after harvest, when it still has a lot of that chlorophyll, a lot of that like life blood energy of the earth flowing through it, and that's amazing, right? So if you're not familiar with what a CSA is, a CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. It's like a co-op, right? You get a box or bag of vegetables each week. You pay like a subscription price, weekly, monthly, whatever, throughout the growing season of your local area. And you get whatever is local seasonal growing then, and you partake in both the risks and the rewards that a garden farm has, right? Whether those risks be pests or weather or what have you, right? Different viruses the plants can get. So there might be weeks when things look a little sparse, or when you have like 9 eggplants and, more than you know what to do with. And so that's what a CSA is. And if maybe you're not ready to do something like that, farmers markets are great things, and I want to encourage you to go to localharvest.org. Localharvest.org, at least in the US and Canada, is a great plug and chug tool to plug in your city and see what sort of farmers markets or garden farms are around you, community gardens, things like that. So I encourage you to get to know what is actually seasonal and local to you. So Chandra says, hi, I try to cut up and freeze as many local fruits and vegetables as possible. That's awesome. That's a great way to make use of them. People ferment and can their veggies. You cut them up, put them in the freezer, use them in smoothies throughout the year. That's an awesome way to do it. And I just picked this morning, I'll have to post a picture, you guys. I was decked out in like this mechanic suit because the sap from the fig tree can cause, irritation to my skin. So I was decked out. I picked so many figs, and I made a chocolate fig, just chocolate fig and oats. It's like a mousse. It's really delicious, low glycemic dessert. And I froze some as well, right, to use later. So that's an awesome way. Yeah, what's the best way to prepare to eat local and seasonal over the winter seasons? Yeah, great question. Well, there's one, right, that we just talked about, Amy Dawn, is freezing your local fruits and vegetables for smoothies, or to pull out for maybe stews or one-pot meals later. And it is normal to have, less raw fruits and vegetables during the winter months, but it's great if you can still have at least, a couple servings a day of raw, and then you pull them out of the freezer. You can put them in smoothies, you can put them in soups, you can, cook them up as a side. Freezing is a great way to do that. The old-fashioned fermenting and canning is a great way to do that. Like, I like to mix local vegetables into my sauerkraut that I make myself. What do you guys do? Tell me what you do. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any questions here. Thanks for joining, you guys. And the other thing I'm noticing here in France is, of course, like, it's just kind of a natural way of life. Of course, you can go get the non-local things, right? You can bring the bananas in from Spain or wherever, but there's just an abundance of pears and figs and peaches and melon and zucchini and summer squash and all of these fruits and vegetables that are seasonal right now here, local. You know, I'm in kind of a continental four seasons sort of climate here in the Rhône-Alpes region of France, in Grenoble, France. And it's just kind of a way of life, right? And the other thing I'm noticing, at least about eating here, is how, growing up, I don't know if anyone else had this experience in the States, right? We are the melting pot, and so we have all sorts of gastronomy, and we don't necessarily have like really balanced, really culturally known meals. And here, you know, most cultures have a very balanced sort of approach to eating. You know, they keep the yin and the yang sort of in balance with what they do. Even as I was here as a guest and not necessarily doing the cooking, there was definitely always a salad for dinner, you know, to start dinner. There was always a cooked vegetable as well. And then the small amounts of, you know, of course, I'm in France, there's going to be the bread, the wine, the cheese. But the other thing I notice about cultural eating is that most cultures have a fermented food in their tradition, right? So France is the cheese, like kimchi in Korea, sauerkraut in Germany. So they've got like natural, worked into their traditions of eating. They have really, they have those probiotic rich foods, that healthy bacteria to kind of line their gut and to maintain gut health. So how cool is that, right? Hey, Kara. Hey, Lori. If you're just joining, say hi. Do you guys have any questions? I definitely wanted to address that. And of course, seasonally, you know, if for example, way up north, it's going to be tough to get through harsh, cold, long winters if you don't have grounding and warming foods, right? And it's going to, and we know this, like during the summer and in more tropical climates, you don't feel like eating really heavy or really, you know, a lot of animal protein. You feel like eating lighter fruits and vegetables and things like that, right? And so it just kind of makes sense if you think about it, local, seasonal. I invite you to kind of, you know, maybe do this with one meal, see if you can get it all local and seasonal, or there's a challenge for you, or at least when you're grocery shopping, make the mental note of, oh, hey, where is my food coming from? Like if I'm picking up these bananas, where's this coming from? Like Brazil, Mexico, Florida, where are these bananas coming from? Does that make sense? Do you guys have any other questions for me? Let me check the comments. And of course, seasonal goes for throughout life as well. So I invite you guys to be in tune with your seasons of life and recognize and appreciate yourself for all that you've been through and all that you have learned about your beautiful body so far, and what works in it and what doesn't, but also what it might need, like how that might change over different seasons of life. And when I say seasons of life, I'm not just talking about before puberty, after puberty, before the baby, after the baby, before menopause, after menopause. I'm talking about like you could move geographies or move houses or any sort of change, relationship changes. These are like things that prompt different needing in nourishment. These are seasons. These are times to reflect what our body needs, right? Hey, Cherie, good morning. Hey, Coral. So I'm just talking about eating locally, seasonally, and culturally. Some reflections on that. Kind of wrapping up. But I was just talking about how seasonally doesn't just mean the seasons like the 4 seasons. It can also mean our seasons of life, right? And when I say our seasons of life, I don't just mean before and after the baby or before and after menopause or whatever. I'm also talking just things that we don't necessarily think are big changes in our life, but can really prompt like a relationship change or a move or a job, a career change. Like those things can actually prompt you to need different types of nourishment, right? So it doesn't have to be a big thing like having a child or something, or going through menopause or whatever. The seasons of life can be just, oh, hey, I switched jobs, and that sort of prompts a different needing in your nourishment. Let me check the comments for questions. With fermented foods, what is too much? I mean, I have both a probiotic and try to work fermented foods into my day, each day. So I'll have a probiotic supplement, like a high quality probiotic, as well as some homemade sauerkraut with my meals. So like with my salad or what have you. Or like, what else is fermented? Kimchi, pickle, the American pickle. Here we have cornichon and things like that. There's a lot of different options, but I mean, I don't think you're gonna sit there and down a whole jar of sauerkraut for dinner. So a nice helping is good at each meal. So there's not, I mean, balancing, it's way easier with our food system to have the bad bacteria outnumber the good bacteria than the good to outnumber the bad. So I'm not generally worried about people getting too much fermented food. And I'm talking, I'm not talking wine. I know wine is fermented and alcohol, but I'm talking the fermented foods like the raw sauerkrauts, like the kombucha, like the things we know contribute to our gut balance, our gut health, that is really our second, or some people are saying third brain now, right? Mind, emotions, gut health. Does that make sense, Amy John? Let me know that that makes sense there. Thanks, she says. Awesome. It's good to have all you guys here. If you're just joining, go ahead and watch from the beginning, because I did discuss a lot of my thoughts about eating locally and seasonally, and even if that's not a totally doable situation for you, especially in the States, that takes a lot of effort to eat 100% locally and seasonally. But I invite you to take one step towards it and just do the experiment of how it feels in your body, how it makes you feel connected to your community, how it really supports your local community, your local farmers. You opt out, you vote with your dollars, you're opting out of a big food system. And just, again, localharvest.org, if you're in the US or Canada, is a great way to look up farmers markets, garden farms, community gardens near you. And just reflect, hey, when you're in the grocery store, where are these mangoes coming from? You know, I don't think these were grown down the street. And this is why people in the Midwest can't give away zucchinis fast enough in the summer. There's always zucchinis on the back doorstep. Zucchini bread, zucchini salad, zucchinis in the stew, everywhere. And once again, freezing and then taking out for later is a great way to, freezing and then taking out during the winter months is a great way to be able to take advantage and not waste, sharing with your neighbor, sharing at potlucks and community dinners and things like that. And also, as we talked about, canning or fermenting, like we think of that as an old-fashioned thing, but that's really such a good method for our gut and our gut health and our family's health. And really to not spend, this is such an affordable way to do things. We think of food as a huge expense, but it doesn't really have to be when we're doing it this way. So even if you don't have a garden of your own, you can get involved in local gardens, CSAs, and garden farms. You're welcome, Amy. April, hey, it's good to see you. Enjoy your knowledge and sweet personality while I eat my lunch. Thanks. It's so sweet of you to hop on. All right, guys. Well, if I'll give you guys a couple minutes for questions, like 2 minute warning here, and then I'm gonna hop off. So this doesn't go on too long for the replay folks. But I've been brushing up. So as you know, you guys know I'm a digital nomad now, and I'm living in France, and at least for a couple months, at least for 2 or 3 months, and so every other time, but this place I've been coming since 2003, since a semester abroad, and this is probably my 6th or 7th tour here, and every other time I come here, I kind of dive in and immerse, and eventually a few weeks later, my brain clicks back into French. But this time, right, I'm working all day in English and then living the rest of my life in French. And so I've had a few whoopsies where I'm speaking franglais on either side, and it's really funny, right? I have, I called someone whose name was obviously Janice, I called her Janice the other day, and I asked someone if they had hunger. How cool is that to say, a digital nomad? Woo woo! It is cool to say, and it's cool to live. Amy Dawn asks, what are 2 or 3 favorite book recommendations, cookbooks or other books to learn about the body and food? I am a huge fan of Kimberly Snyder. She has a huge influence on my work. Kimberly Snyder, her series is the Beauty Detox blank. So the Beauty Detox Solution, Beauty Detox Foods, Beauty Detox Power. Beauty Detox Foods, the middle one, which is the orange one, is probably the most bang for the buck, because you get a ton of recipes, and you also get what you're talking about, learn about the body and food. She has some core principles that are easily put into practice. She's big on, like I am, on progress, not perfection, on baby steps, and it was kind of her work that kind of opened me up to even going back to nutrition school in the first place. And I was especially turned on by like green drinks, green smoothies, green juices, and what a big effect one small habit change had in my energy, because I was definitely someone who was always hitting like I always needed artificial forms of energy, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, you know, and once I added a lot more nutrient-rich foods in the form of vegetables, and other produce, I noticed I wasn't hitting that like 2-3 p.m. wall. I had a lot more sustainable energy throughout the day. So I'm a big fan of Kimberly Snyder. Anything by, she would be the number one that I would recommend. Let me think for a minute. Dr. Andrew Weil is another big influence. Dr. Mark Hyman, Eat Fat, Get Thin. Andrew Weil has a bunch of books, but you can just like go subscribe to their newsletters or blogs and get a general idea if you want to, you know, go for a whole book or not. Invest in a book. I mean, like, invest time, you know. And if you want more about the mind-body-spirit connection and you know, what powerful creators we are over our own health, integrative, they're all integrative, actually, all of those folks are. They're all holistic, but something that comes at nourishment from more of a spiritual perspective. Caroline Meese, great one. I've actually got one of her books, like, the phone stand is standing on one of her books that I'm in the middle of right now. But yeah, I would start there. And Amy Dawn, I don't know if you're in my group, Intuitive Eating for Energy, but you are welcome to join it. It's a free Facebook community. And I have a lot of my own recipes up in there. We talk a lot about, you know, meal planning and strategizing, and practical tips for eating healthy on the go, eating healthy while traveling, which is a big thing for me right now, and eating intuitively, you know, kind of making the jump from eating more emotionally to intuitively. And so you're welcome to come join my group. I can link it when I get off of here. And we are actually having a drawing on Wednesday. So if you join before then, you can enter the drawing, because we just hit 222, and every time we hit a repeating number, we did one at 111 and we just hit 222. So we are going to have a drawing, and I'm going to give away one free sugar release, the Sugar Release Experiment, which is my program, 30-day program about releasing refined sugar and kicking candida to the curb. So you are welcome over in there, where we talk a lot about all this stuff. I hope that has helped. Any other questions before I bid you adieu? Or au revoir, as we say here. I'm just, I'm going to check the other threads to make sure the ladies on the shared threads don't have any questions. Whoops. What group is that, Amy? It's called Intuitive Eating for Energy. If you go to, oh, that's okay. Intuitive Eating for Energy. And if you go to Heisman Health page, it's linked in the groups tab. It's linked there, so you don't even have to search it. Because I know you already like the Heisman Health page. You can just go to the groups tab and see it there. Okay, I don't see any other questions on the shared links and the shared threads, but thanks for joining, everyone, for this conversation about eating locally, seasonally, and culturally, and being connected to the community where you are, wherever you are on the planet. I hope it's going well. Let me know how this tip serves you and how it works for you, and what experiments you do with it, and what you notice about the food you're buying and consuming. And I will be on again soon, next time, to talk more about intuitive eating and nourishing in all its forms. All right, love you guys. Mwah!